Welcome back to Beholder to Know on a D&D podcast. Today we are here with practical heroes, Lindsey and Jordan. So welcome.
Hey, thanks.
Thanks for having us.
And we're going to talk about group chemistry, forming groups, maybe jump into some other topics about players, but just some random D&D things and TTRPG things that affect every single group ever. Let's start with experience. So Jordan, what's your experience with D&D so far? How long and what games and stuff like that?
So when it comes to tabletop RPGs, my only experience is literally D&D, minus maybe a couple spattering of games when I was younger, like 5, 6, that I don't remember anymore. But I've only been playing D&D since about, I think October of last year, actually.
Oh, so you are new.
Yeah, super new.
Well,
He's a fresh
happy
baby.
1 year late anniversary on
Well, thank you.
tabletop games. And what about you, Lindsey?
For TTRPGs, well, I've always been like a big old fantasy nerd, just from the get-go. It's genetic, I think. But I didn't actually get to play D&D until my oldest son was, I think, 13, and we went to a game store and they had the beginners box set. And he was like, "Hey, I want to try this." And more or less, it was, "All right, kid, hold my beer." Because like 2 weeks later, I was running games at that store for both D&D Adventures League and Pathfinder Society,
Go big or
which
go home.
was, which was heckin' confusing because rules are just similar enough to be super different and confusing.
Yep.
So I did that for about 2-ish years, and then decided that no more Pathfinder. That's too crunchy, and just focused on DMing for D&D. But then started branching out to all the other tabletop RPGs. I have several bookshelves of several different. If I get a chance to play it, I will, and I'll probably buy it. So I have lots, and I help. We got a D&D program going at the library, so I DM for that, or did before the world exploded in disease. Um, always fun. I've run games at work, trying to get people to play. I now admin West March's D&D server, where I'm kind of a 24/7 DM now, which is weird, but also
Yeah.
again thanks to the world exploding in disease. Uh, so it's more of an option. But yeah, so pretty in it as far as DMing, playing. I do a lot of crafting, or I did again when we could have
Yeah.
real life games.
I'm kind of in that same boat. Not as big into like running games for other people type of thing in like real life, even previously. I used to play at a game store and I would run games and I became like no, you could play with us. It's fine. Yeah, we have 9 players. It's cool. We can fit one more type of table. But since that store closed down, I've been mostly doing online or with just like close friends. But I've been playing for 17 years now.
Oh wow!
And I personally like you said, I started with 3.5 and I just did 3.5 at first, but like I've played Pathfinder. It is crunchy. And I understand now why, even if I play Pathfinder like once a week, I still would mix it up with 5th edition. So I'm like, okay, make a will save. I'm like, wait, shit. Wisdom, not will. Wisdom. Right. But I mostly play 5th edition now. I personally love other tables. They are just so much fun to play, and I always have such a blast trying new systems, which is why I pushed Beholder to one-shots out. Force myself to play 2 new games a month. This is brilliant.
Ooh, I love it. Yeah, I love trying out new games.
But that actually kind of goes hand in hand with forming groups. Like when you are creating a game, whether tabletop or D&D, you need to form a group. And sometimes usually it starts with like, these are my close friends. You guys want to play? Or like you said, trying to get your coworkers to play. What kind of advice maybe or experience do you guys have like with forming your own personal groups to play a game?
Well, with me, like the way I like the first group I was ever in, which kind of has disbanded now due to schedules and all that stuff. I think we only had like 5 sessions total.
Schedules
Uh,
are the bane of all D&D
yes.
TTRPG
Hmm.
existences.
Yeah. So schedules for one, but like the way my group formed that group was talking to a coworker who was the one that really honestly sparked my interest in D&D. And then so I started looking online for ways to start groups because living here where I live, I hadn't had a big friend group yet. I had only lived here for about a year and got on Reddit actually on the local Reddit for where I live, plus also D&D Reddit, and just started putting out messages like, "Hey, anyone in the area want to make groups?" Got a bunch of replies and started talking to people there and formed a group that way, using my coworker as the DM actually. So like my advice, like every time I see people like, "Oh, how can I form a group?" I'm like, you just gotta start putting it out there that you're forming one, and you'll be surprised how
Hmm.
many people like, "Oh, I've been looking for a group too," and
The one thing I will emphasize with that though is be optimistic, but also prepared that your first group might not be the best.
Hmm.
And you need to understand that just because somebody's available to play doesn't mean they're a right fit for you.
Yeah.
amen. And
Yes.
that's a prime example of the first group too. Is that's actually how I met the DM for my second group, the one that I'm still currently in, and that group's coming up on a year of play almost.
Yeah.
And he that person joined the group, the second group, and then we all got together with him. Like he's just kind of a problematic player, man. Like we're not
Mhm.
having real fun when he's in the sessions, and he's like, okay, well, we'll talk to him. And then lo and behold, he stepped away from the campaign.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's definitely making sure you're having fun is the most important thing, I think.
Yeah. Always, always, always talk to everyone like you are witnessing for your faith about your love of gaming. Every new person, just because you never know when they might be kind of interested and you can lure them into the game. And that's always what you want to do is just reach out and talk up how much fun it is and how much you love it. You know, share your passion, share the game. And then also, if you really want to start a group, you're going to have to DM most of the time. Everybody's always looking for a DM. Then once you get people in and comfortable and you've picked out the ones that you like, you can be like, "Hey, buddy, how about you try to DM this week and start training the next group of DMs?" So more games. See, it's like a pyramid scheme almost. You just spread the love. Um,
If you are looking for games though and you can't find a DM and you're not comfortable DMing, try either Discord for like West March Styles, which you mentioned earlier,
mhm,
types games, which is where you make a character and you're able to learn the system while playing in Discord, which is it's like a constant pace but slower.
mhm.
And you might be able to find live groups in there. You might be able to play text. Oh crap, what's the word?
Play by post.
Play by post. Thank you. You might be able to
Mhm,
find play by post games, which is what I did for a really long time. There are forums like RPG Crossing that you can do, where you can learn new systems. That's where I learned how to play GURPS for the first time,
mhm,
um, or where I played AD&D for the first time was through play by posts through a forum. And then if you're looking for only live games, you could try like Roll20. They have actual built-in systems there where people are saying, "I'm looking for players." And some will say they're paid. You do not need to play a paid game for the first time ever. Find one of the free ones. It might
yeah,
not be your cup of tea, but give it a shot.
yeah, yeah. The switch from real life to online has been a weird one because for me as a DM, because I'm so used to just like going out and snatching people off the street and being like, "Here, come play my game." Uh, but yeah, the Discord server has been a huge boon as far as being able to find games. I don't even know how many different servers I've joined looking for various games to play. So that's definitely an excellent route for anyone to start with. And a lot of them you can just kind of lurk for a while and watch and see
Mhm.
how other people are playing and
Oh yeah.
yeah, gauge whether or not that's going to be your cup of tea before even having to like jump in.
Yeah, I've definitely joined and left
Yeah.
multiple servers, like so many.
I was in one play by post server for like almost a year, and I loved it and I hated it. Like I loved it because I could play and I wanted like everybody to have fun, and I was like constantly I became like an admin of the server, and I was just like, yeah, we're gonna all have fun, everything's gonna be great. But then the server itself became very overpowered,
Mhm.
and I didn't like the route it was going. And every time somebody like it was a one of those ones where like, hey, we want this, let's vote it in type of servers. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
things just kept breaking more and more and more. And as an admin, I was trying to like get in the way of that, trying to stop that from happening, because to me, that's ruining the game. And I
Yeah.
realized that to them it wasn't. And I was like, this isn't for me anymore, because this is becoming something that I don't like and I don't want to be a part of. And
Mhm.
me standing in the way is just pissing people off.
Yeah. Actually, we just rebooted our server because the like I just became an admin a few months ago, and there was a big shift in the direction that everything was going. All the characters were like way overpowered. You could just I started calling the local store Sears because you could just walk in and be like, "Hey, NPC, I would like a sun sword," and he'd be like, "Cool, 3 weeks and it's yours." And
Yep.
so it was just like, well, what's the point of this? Nobody's going on adventures. It's all just like, here's a monster, go kill it. Congratulations, here's your gold. And
So yeah, my thing was you could make your own magic items. So
Mhm.
you could be level 5 and have a rare item,
Oof.
and you could use downtime to learn things. So literally, like I spent all of my downtime learning languages. I knew like
Mhm.
25 languages for my character. And if I ran into any creature I didn't know, I learned that language. I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, giant? I don't know what they're saying. Not give me a second. Nope, I know what they're saying now." Like, but the thing that pissed me off the most was their money. So it was stupid petty of me to do this, but I figured out the averages based off the tables of how much money you should be making approximately
Mhm.
based off the DM's guide.
Yep.
And it's about 30% to XP ratio. So like if you kill something worth 100 XP, approximately you will get about 30 gold. It's not perfect, but approximately.
Mhm.
They were getting 100% ratio.
Oh.
Oh wow.
So it's like, so you're saying if I go kill 300 XP worth of gold at level 1 to level 2, I now have 300 gold at level 2. That
Yeah.
seems off.
Go
Mhm.
make it rain.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I always use roll charts and if it comes out like way too high, because some of the magic items you can roll, be like, no, no, you guys aren't getting that. You tone it down a little. But yeah, that's we do have occasions where we've taken away DM tags from people because of the over rewarding and like
Mhm.
breaking our economy. So that's what we had to do is like literally there was a drow invasion and then a Tarask came and just smashed the town. So we're like, you can't have this anymore. It's gone. And
Yep.
made a new server.
That actually, something like that happened in our server too that I was in. Somebody used their quest to affect the town and literally caused an earthquake that destroyed most of the town.
Hmm.
And I'm like, did you talk to anybody about this at all?
Yeah.
Any of the admins? No? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, luckily we did this as admin and had been communicating with the server like, "Hey, this is coming up. We're building a new server that's going to have different rules and setup." So it
Okay.
wasn't like surprise Tarask. It was just this is how it ends, guys. We're moving away from this and we're going to move over here and you're going to start making your own items and going on quests. And if that's not your cup of tea, then, your hero dies or moves away. Whatever. It's fine. Rides off into the sunset. Thanks for playing.
And that kind of goes with group chemistry. If you have players that are in your group that want an overpowered min-max like epic campaign, and you are not the DM or group for that, it might be better for them to move to a new group.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yes.
have
Everybody should be happy.
yeah, exactly. Like we had one I've talked about this before on the podcast, but in one of my games we had one player who wanted that epic game, and they were a min-maxer to the
Mhm.
extreme. And the rest of us were just like, we just want a jokey fun Monty Python-like game.
Hmm.
That's what we want. So it wasn't a good fit, and we were all getting annoyed, and he was getting annoyed. So he eventually stepped away, and it became, for us, a better game. Not because he was a bad player, but because he wanted something completely different. And instead of having to force us into what he wanted, we when he was playing, we started just purposely doing things to piss him off. So he would sneak off because he was the rogue, and he'd go, "I'm gonna sneak off and go do the thing that we're supposed to be doing." And it's like, "Oh, we lost him again. Who wants ice cream? Who
Nice.
wants to spend the next hour shopping?" Like, those are the kind of
Hmm.
things we were doing. But I'm sure that if he found a group of other people who were like-minded, he would have a fucking blast because it would be this epic, overpowered, min-max game, but the DM would be able to prepare for that
Yeah.
Yeah.
and provide that information or provide the game that they want.
Yeah. And that kind of can tie into the importance of having a session zero
Mhm.
and having an honest session zero is really key because
Oh, yeah.
if that player communicated that that's the kind of game that he wanted with the DM and the rest of the party, and the rest of the party communicated back, like, yeah, that's not really our jam. He
Yeah,
could have made an informed decision at that point whether or not it was gonna, or maybe that was communicated and he was like, maybe I'll try anyway. I don't know.
I
But
wasn't part of the session 0, I joined a little later, so
yeah.
I'm not 100% sure, but
Well, and people that things change along the
yeah,
road
for
too.
sure.
It's not like session zero is it's like the end all be all, but it is an important step in
oh yeah.
forming groups.
I think that's
Since we're on that.
what definitely helped with like our podcast one. We had a session 0, which I really enjoyed because the group I've been in for almost a year now, we didn't have one because it's a first time DM with that group, so he was even unaware of session zeros and all that stuff. So I think that in my for fun group, it's definitely caused some issues not having a session 0 because like myself. I feel personally I'm a little bit more into the role play aspect, whether it's cheesy role play, over the top role play, or even serious, edge boy role
Mhm.
play. And the rest of that group is very much for fun, which don't get me wrong, they're all great people to play with, but there's times where I'm like, I'm giving you quality role play here and I'm not getting anything back, guys. Come on.
Yep.
you know, and I've even talked to them before, and we've had realignment essentially mid campaign session zeros and whatnot. So it's communication with the DM and with the group is definitely important for sure.
Mhm.
We did have an episode on session 0 where I know we talked about, a lot of those things. One thing I do like is it's not necessarily in every session 0, but it honestly, like, for my friend group where we all have known each other for a while, and there's the 4 of us who play in the whole Clearlight game, but then there was, like, 2 others that joined us that were their roommates. And the first time we had a session 0 absolutely positively changed the way that our characters work together.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because the thing that we found was I don't remember where we found it, but basically it was like you go into the session 0 not with a completed character in mind, but with a concept,
Mhm.
and you roll dice to determine, like, just a d20 to determine who goes first, and every person describes what their character looks like and just like their basic personality. And then as you're going around, you then eventually pick what you want to play so that everybody has a chance to play what they want, but you're also balancing out the party a little bit. And my favorite part was the connections. So you would have to connect to one other person, and then the next person would go, and they couldn't connect to somebody who's already been connected to. So eventually you all have a connection of some sort, and you do that twice.
Oh,
Okay.
that's
And
neat.
the players had a say, so you could easily go, "Okay, well, I know Jordan because okay, Jordan's a thief. I caught him breaking into an ice cream shop one day, and we ate ice cream together." And then you could go, "No, no, no, that's not exactly what happened. Here's how I remember it." And, like, you bounce ideas off until you get to a place that you're comfortable with,
Oh,
and
I
you're
totally like that.
Yeah.
yeah, and you're building your character stories, but you're also building a connection with that person. Like, honestly, with Greg, who's the co-host of the show, usually, he and I had our connection being we realized that we would have a lifelong Nemesis because I said Shillelagh as Shalaga, and he was the wizard who had to say it correctly and correct me every time. And that kind of played on our real life situation because I say words wrong all the fucking time, and he'll correct me. My favorite is pugilist. I will
Mhm.
always say it as pugilist
Yeah, I
It's
think
really
it
because
hard for
that
me
way
not to
every
say it that
time.
way too.
I said it that way the first time. He's like, "You mean pugilist?" And I'm like, "Oh, now I have to say it wrong every time now. So it's pugilist forever."
Mhm. And it sounds cuter.
Right?
Right? I
Now I
just
just
imagine a
picture
little pug
yeah,
fighting.
now I just picture some pug with hand wraps on his paws beating the crap out of some
Little
guys.
bowler hat.
Officially a character I'm gonna make now. I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Yes. A a pug a pug
Pugilist.
elitist that's a pugilist.
And to adding on to like the connections, that was like in the for fun group I'm in, that was something that was really hard for me to get past, especially after being in this podcast campaign. Like I think I've told our DM Mitch multiple times, like you've ruined me on what I expect DMs to be,
Mhm.
and group formation. But like the setting we have for my for fun campaign is on another planet, blah blah blah, and our characters get teleported to this new realm. And for me, I'm like, well, so any backstory I have is really not important because I'm not connected to the place I'm at. So for me, it was really hard to get past that and really get in depth with my character of why should I care of where I'm at as a character. And that character unfortunately died due to death saving rolls. And so the new one I have is connected, and I'm having so much more fun now because I'm actually, in my opinion, a part of the world he created.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that does help dramatically if you make the character for the world versus picking somebody who shouldn't fit. It kind of like this is an extreme, but it's kind of like, oh, I made a Terminator for a high fantasy game.
Like
It's not gonna work.
Yeah.
a souped
Um,
up Warforged. Like
it'd
super
be
souped up.
funny. It'd be funny, but it might
Mhm.
not work.
Well, and I think there are ways, like in our own campaign, we kind of have a character that's. Would you say, Lindsay, he's kind of removed and been placed in our campaign a little bit, but he's still from the same world, though, which is nice.
Yeah.
I think there's definite ways you can make it work, but it's all about again talking to your DM and be like, "Hey, this is what I was thinking," and the DM helps you tweak it to one where you still have fun, but also it fits and it's not ridiculous. Because I mean, a T1000 walking around in a high fantasy is definitely never going to work. I feel.
Well, I think it would be a fun challenge. The real thing is going would be how the group dynamic works and how
Oh yeah.
the DM handles things. Like even in my on the server that I admin for, it drives me up the wall when something really bizarre happens and everybody's just like, "Huh,
Yep.
okay." So like if there's a Terminator walking around, I want civilians freaking the fuck out. I
Yeah.
don't want them to just be like, "Oh, look at the shiny man. Is that a eldritch blast coming out of his? Oh, okay." You know, that is the only way. Like they'd have to like put like a cowboy hat on him and wrap him all up crazy and try to hide that to make it work, and it'd be funny.
That's fair. This kind of goes off topic a little bit, but I also like when players realize that the growth of their character isn't working with the group chemistry anymore. I guess it's not off topic
Mhm.
then. I've had that happen before. And I actually played it was a Pathfinder game, and I played a they're called catfolk in Pathfinder, but they're equivalent to a tabaxi,
Mhm.
and she was a rogue, shadow rogue thing. I don't remember. It's been a while. But I was in a group and this one party member kept playing pranks on her. And we're not talking like silly, harmless pranks. We're talking hurtful, mean pranks, basically.
Uh-huh.
And the player themselves wasn't a problem, like, they were fine, but, the DM would randomly roll everything. So she would use a
Oh.
random roll for treasure and for, like, food items at the restaurants. So we went to an inn, she randomly rolled, and there was cat on the menu,
Oh
Oh
gosh.
God.
and, of course, the player had his character order the cat on the menu and then tell the cat folk, "Oh, look what I ordered."
Oh my gosh.
So then she went on a rampage and broke out all the cats from the kitchen.
Fair. As she should.
Right? And I'm like, "Why would you order that? That's disgusting. No, we have to save all the cats." And she goes and saves all the cats. And then, like, 2 sessions later, the random roll, like, it included, like, junk and stuff, like forks, spoons, you find, like, a couple of pieces of cloth and things like that, but one of the things that you found was, like, a tiger skin.
Oh.
So he puts it on his character and tries to scare my character, being like, "Look, I'm a cat folk," with, like, one of her dead ancestors basically on
Good
him,
God.
and she flipped out again,
Yeah.
obviously, and I'm like, are you do" like, I said it out of character, I'm like, "Are you doing this on purpose? Like, seriously? Are you just trying to get her mad?" He's like, "It's just a
Mhm.
joke." So I messaged the DM and I said, "Hey, I wanna do something when everybody goes to sleep." And she's like, "Okay." And I already talked to her a little bit about, like, I think I need to back my character out of the story because, like, my character will kill him. Just straight
Yeah.
up kill him. He's being a terrible person. And I snuck in his room with a super high stealth as he was asleep, and I stabbed a dagger with a note directly next to his head so he would wake up to it. And it was like, "I could have killed you. Consider yourself lucky that I'm just leaving instead. I'm done with your games." And, like, she just disappeared.
Oh, nice.
Excellent way to leave a group, though. Like,
Yeah.
that's a mic drop worthy.
Yeah.
It sucked because I love that character.
Yeah, stuff like that is kind of a fine line between what would my character do and just being
A dick.
a bit too much as a player.
Yeah.
I had a sort of similar, not nearly as extreme situation with a druid that I'm playing, where she's also a leather worker because it's kind of the whole like use as much of the animal as possible and maybe people won't hunt so damn much situation. But somebody just, it was actually a tabaxi, strangely enough, came to buy a cloak and dropped off some lizard folk skin. And so she had a good flip out about bringing humanoid flesh to her to do anything with. And that player was completely bewildered as to why it was an issue. So then I had to like step out of character and like have a whole conversation about like, okay, so a druid would feel this way about, and also a humanoid isn't the same thing as an animal.
Yeah.
And it was this whole weird discussion, which I think they ended up understanding. We'll
Hopefully.
see. If I don't know. I found out a animated skeleton that is currently in hiding skinned some bugbears, and so I'm really hoping he does not bring those to my
Oh no.
druid because she cannot handle that right now. Like these are people. Don't bring a druid the flesh of something that has a language.
Right.
It's a bad idea.
I know that with lizard folks, which what's actually kind of funny though, is I think based off lizard folk lore, like they are waste not, want not.
Oh
So
yeah, totally.
like a lizard
But it
folk
wasn't
would
a lizard folk.
no, I know, but a lizard folk would totally just be like, "Oh no, that's legit. Like you're using it. That's fine."
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
they would be perfectly fine with them using their ancestors' skin because they're just like, "Well, I was gonna eat it, so I can't eat the
Oh yeah.
skin."
Oh yeah, absolutely. But just having like a random tabaxi bring the skin that she
No,
basically flailed off of an opponent was a bit like,
no, I get it,
yeah,
100%.
because another character tried to mansplain to her about the like mid freak out about the lizard folk. She was like, "It wasn't a lizard folk that gave it to me." Ah,
Yeah. I found it funny 'cause, I played a lizard folk in, I played a plague doctor lizard folk, which was a
mm-hmm,
homebrew class, and, she was all like I made her like the village doctor type of plague doctor, and she
mm-hmm.
used, leeches and weird herbalist tonics to heal people,
That's awesome.
and, like, she was like that, where if somebody died, including when one of the players died, she's like, is this part of that ritual thing where you have to bury them, or can I eat that?" And they're like, "You can't
That's
eat our
awesome.
friend." It's like, "But he's
Well,
dead."
she asked.
Well, that's because, like,
Polite.
I was, my character was married to my best friend's character, who was a fire genasi, because he
Ah,
was warm.
nice.
I dig it. Smart, practical.
It was my favorite combination. I was so sad when that game ended. Like, we literally were gonna have ourselves, painted to have, like, one of those, the rich folk, paintings that go over your fire mantle where, like, the
Oh,
man's
yeah, yeah,
sitting,
yeah.
the woman's, like, standing behind him with their like, whatever. Uh, they wanted we wanted to get a legitimate couple painting of our
That is
characters
awesome.
I
for
dig
our
it.
fantasy fireplace.
Oh, I love it.
So, I mean, group chemistry has a huge like, that all it takes into consideration, and, like, some of those things you would know that with the lizard folk skins, the players should have known that with your character being a druid that you would react that way.
Right. But, since they didn't, it goes back to the communication
Mhm.
part, which even when I'm a player, I'm still sort of a DM, at least in, like, reining myself in and communicating and trying to, like, be aware of other players and their reactions and stuff. So rather than just making that whole situation really uncomfortable for the other player, it was better to, step outside of it and explain, and then we'll see if the chemistry, improves
Yeah,
with that.
I think communication is, like, the number one rule of group chemistry. Like,
Mhm.
100%, that's what you need to do because there's gonna be situations where a player does something that's irritating others and everybody else realizes it, but they don't realize it. They're just, like, in the moment and they're like, "Yeah, this is what my character would do. Let's do it."
Mhm.
And there have been
Yeah.
times where in a game, we will have to step up and say something and be like, "Whoa, let's take a step back. Stop doing that, please, and here's why." Like,
Yeah.
let me explain. A good example is in one of our home games that wasn't recorded or anything, one player would particularly go, "Come on, you gotta make a decision. You gotta do something. You gotta do this, do this," like telling another player what to do. And I'm like, stop. Let them make
Mhm.
their own decision. Whether it's a mistake or not is up to what they do.
Mhm.
They need to learn. They need to learn how their character works. And if they don't learn that, hey, raging and fighting things might result in bad things, that's up to how they learn is by playing.
Yeah,
Stop
exactly.
fucking metagaming.
Yeah. Oh god, metagaming. Ah. Oh.
Yes, that's the whole.
But yeah, we've had I mean, even in our podcast game where we've all kind of had to have a quick discussion about like, hey, there's this reoccurring thing that is detracting from our group enjoyment. If we could curb that, would be appreciated.
Mhm.
And rather than just let it keep festering
Yeah.
and us grumbling to the side and that it has helped and improved things just by making sure that we're communicating at least with the DM, if not each other.
Yeah. That I'm back onto the whole, a player may be irritated and not realize it. That is an example of a character I had where we had just retrieved these bombs from underneath the city, and my character at the time was a rogue and everything. He's like, "Well, I want to use at least one of the bombs as a bargaining chip with the underground mafia boss for more information." And like I one of the characters said they would go with me even, and like everything was on so far on the up and up, and then we meet the like essentially the governor of the town, and he who is controlled by the DM, and he realizes about the bomb that we have the bombs, which because he's the one that sent them for us. He's like, "Here, I need all of them real quick," and I gave him like one, and the character I had mentioned going with me had let it slip that we were gonna go see this guy, and the guy was like, "Okay, I need all the bombs right now. You can't take these to the most dangerous person in my city." And my character is like, "Oh yeah, well, invisibility dust and run away." But and I mean, it was a fiasco, caused some major ripples in the game, and even afterwards, like I apologized to the DM. I'm like, "That was so off and so reckless. I apologize so much for that." And it was a big growth moment for me as a player for sure.
Yeah, and that's important that you, like, learn from it. Like, let it happen, have the consequences, and then sometimes if it's like, "You know what? I realize I just ruined it for everybody.
Yeah,
Can we backtrack? Can we go back to point A and try again?" And in a home game, it's a little different, like, you can easily do that in a recording game. I've actually seen like Adventure Zone, they did that. They recorded a whole scene. They did not like how they reacted, and they literally came back and said, "We didn't like how that went," and they re-recorded it.
Mm-hmm.
And they left it all in. Or no, they left the second part in, but explained why they sounded different. I think was like, we recorded all this and this is how we reacted and this is what we did, and we decided like that's not who we are as a group, and it didn't make sense at the time, or it doesn't make sense now for this game for us to do that.
Yeah.
So they tweaked how they reacted and handled it differently to get the ending that would have made more sense.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I could see my character, like, I see players do this a lot, especially if they play very different characters. I've played characters that are very punchy and like run in and go kill things and run in and be reckless. So then when I play other characters that are more like hesitant, sometimes I slip into that old mindset of like, let's run in and kill. Oh, wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, I don't have a sword. Never mind. Ignore me.
Whoops.
I'm in the back. Just gonna cast healing word.
Yeah. I'm a healer. I'll be back here. My bad. Yeah. I've done that with my druid because I haven't played a druid in forever, and she's rushed in like twice. And I'm like, oh, shoot. No. Nope. Whoops.
Turn into a bear.
Wild shape. Get out. Run away, you dummy. And after every battle, when she's got like 2 HP and is bleeding out everywhere, she just kind of collapses with, I suck at fighting.
That's why I love my monk, because she just like doesn't give a shit and she'll run in and do it. And they're like, whenever someone's like, it's incredibly dangerous or it's not worth it or it's impossible, she's like, I hear a challenge.
Yeah.
And the DM knows this too. So like she'll throw something at us like, hey, there's this deadly thing where you can make lots of money. I don't recommend doing it because you're gonna die. It's fighting to the death, like emphasizing. And my character's like, how much money?
Yeah.
Actually, Mitch is a little guilty of that also. Just in the last session, he's like, Mary notices this thing, and she remembers that this thing is super dangerous and super lore heavy. And I'm like, ooh, gonna poke it. Just hinting heavily that this thing is dark and foreboding and full of adventure,
And we
and
should
that
not go near
Mary, we should not, it's very dangerous. Don't go near that, Mary. And so she's just like, so hey guys, look over there. See that?
Right. Well,
We should go there. Look at
even
that.
in the
That
beginning
looks
of-
fun. Let's go.
And even in the beginning of the campaign, you even mentioned that Mary is the one that likes to poke everything with a stick. So it's like, Mitch, you're literally telling her to go poke it with a stick.
Yeah. And then just so happens maybe another character might know something about that thing also. So now Mary's even more like, so we should definitely go check it though, right? Because I mean, it's probably important to you, right? It's cool with me if we check it out. So hopefully I don't kill us all.
It's okay. I've got like 4 backup characters. Totally fine.
I only have Mary. Mary or nothing. No, I'm kidding. Although Yuri is, I think, right behind Mary with a backup stick for the poking.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and that's one thing like I like in any campaign is, if I know there's stuff that isn't necessarily going to be explored through the main storyline, I'm going to do my hardest to make sure it gets explored at some point. Because I want, at least on the DM side, from the DM's point of view, I'm like, if you spent all this time building this world, I want to make sure any part you're interested in gets explored.
But yeah, that's for me also. If there's a nugget that Mitch has left us, I do try to remember and circle back to it. Just because, yeah, as a DM, it's a little disappointing when you put a thread out there and the characters are like, "That's
Well,
cool."
there have been
Anyway,
times I will. It depends on the DM, I think, because like I very much am a fly by the seat of my pants DM right now, at least. And there are times where I'll mention something. I'm like, oh shit, I did mention that, didn't I? Because I just forget. Like I'll perfect example. The current storyline they're in, they have like 3 sessions left for this game because one of the players was going to leave for work reasons. And I was like, oh, okay, well, let's just end the game completely. That's a good starting point. But we were like level 12 at the time. And I'm like, okay, I have 4 sessions to get you to the legendary end boss. What do I want this legendary end boss? Oh, why don't we just end the whole War of the Gods in 4 sessions? That'll be fine. So every game, I'm just like, you jumped up 2 levels, go. Now you're fighting a god. And that was all randomly created because one day they're like, we're going to take a nap here. And I'm like, okay, well, what should I have them randomly encounter in the night? How about 2 halflings? Okay, they're gonna be kid halflings. Why are there kid halflings? There's a town of kids. Okay, this is the Lost Boys. Awesome. Why are they hiding? Their parents had to leave to protect them. Okay, they're missing. Okay, sure. Who's stealing them? Gods are stealing them. Okay, which gods? Like that was the planning, and this is
Yeah.
happening in the middle of them talking about like why are there 2 halflings? And I'm just like, hold on. Keep having a conversation.
Yeah.
So ultimately it led to them like meeting a god and then having to go fight the other god.
Yes.
And I found a book of 5e epic god stat blocks, and I'm like, okay, I guess you're fighting Bahal, and it's actually Cyric, but
Nice.
I'm just using this stat block because you guys could take on a CR23 maybe?
Shrugs and hopes.
It's fine. They survive.
Yeah, so I mean it would definitely depend on the style of DMing. Mine's somewhere in the middle of prepped and seat in my pants because I will accidentally in my rambling throw out some little bit of accidental made up lore that players have latched onto, and I'm like, all right, cool, yeah, we'll do that then. That's yeah, totally meant that to happen on purpose. Definitely was always part of the plan. But like with Mitch, I know he has put like a
Yeah.
million billion hours into his world building.
Oh
So,
yeah.
try to, and also if he's hinting that something is scary and dangerous, I definitely want to go find out what it is.
Right.
I remember there was one game that my friend DM'd, and she was following a book, a campaign book. I forget which one we were playing though. But there was a scene where we walked somewhere, and it was a deadly encounter. It was like a sandboxy type scene, but you could go to the left or you could go to the right. And if you went to the left, you went up against like a dragon, and we were like level 3. So not a good idea.
Oh, goodness.
So she just was like,
Uh-huh.
I thought she handled this really well, even though this is probably not how it's supposed to go. You're supposed to probably go see that there's a dragon and then be smart enough to run the fuck away. But we started heading to the left, and then a random NPC comes out and goes, "There's dragons up there. You don't want to go there." It was the funniest thing. And like one of us were like, "Well, maybe." And they're like, "No, no, we're gonna die." And I loved it. I was just like, "This is perfect." Like, like, perfection improv right there. That's how you handle it.
Very Monty Python-esque. Oh, goodness.
"There's a bunny up there. You don't want to fight the bunny." I actually fought, we had the bunny in my Sunday game last week.
Oh, nice.
It was just a bunny, and I'm like, "What kind of Monty Python bullshit is this?" And the DM's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. It's just a bunny." It's not just a bunny.
Well, it's like
It
that
is the
one meme.
abominable bunny.
Yeah,
That one meme if you're
I have a dire hair that I'll throw at people periodically, and it's from Hit Point Press, the deck of many people. They
Mhm.
also did the Humblewood campaign and Heckna.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a great little. Well, it's a medium-sized creature because it's a dire hair, and he's great, and he is beefy and has like a +8 to like bite your head off. He's great. I also uh, reskinned him as the white hair from Alice in Wonderland for a weird planar thing I did recently, which was kind of fun to have a massive bloodthirsty late for tea party rabbit attack people.
I honestly did an Alice in Wonderland one shot just for fun one week because
Mhm.
I'm like, "Hey, do you guys want to play a game on Thursday? I really want to just like DM something Alice in Wonderland themed."
Mhm.
And I had the buffet that was in front of them come to life.
Oh, nice.
So they fought cheese elementals, banana cream pie pudding oozes, and
Oh, I love it.
gummy owl bears.
I love it.
I love it. Love it.
And they like 3 of them that almost died, but they were fine. And then at the end, I had prepared, they could fight the Mad Hatter,
Oh,
but
nice.
we hit 2 hours at the first fight, and I was like, "Okay, cool. Like,
Yeah.
we're good."
I made the Cheshire Cat a recurring character on the
Yes.
server, so it's now a she, and she's just a reskinned Arcanoloth, but she'll pop in and grab players for different jaunts into Wonderland. I even made little art for her so I can, have just her eyes and her smile when she first shows up, and it's fun. Her name is
That's fun.
Chisai, because I'm not subtle.
Last night in a, have you guys ever heard of the game the book Dresden Files?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's how I prove I'm
Um
magic. When when my computer crashes, I'm like, "Yep, there it is. I'm magic."
So, I was playing in a charity game that I told you about before we started recording,
Mm-hmm.
and we had to play as a character, and because I loved the Dresden Files, and that's the only series I've read, like, multiple times, I played a gender swap Harry Dresden.
Oh, nice.
So I played Harriet Dresden, a evocation wizard, and, of course, we were playing Descent into Avernus, so all my spells were fire-based, which does not help very much.
Right.
But one of the things was if we earned like, I donated $15, so then I got one of my special magic items, which I ended up getting Bob the Skull as my magic item, and I got Find Familiar to call Mister as my familiar, so I had Bob the Skull writing Mister my familiar and helping us throughout the thing. But it was very amusing. We had Doc Brown on our part in our team
Oh, nice.
as well as Frenchie from The Good Boys? The Bad Boys? The Bad Boys. Boys? I
The
haven't seen
boys.
that show. The Boys. It might have been just The Boys. I haven't seen it.
It's good.
And who else did we have? Oh, we had She-Ra.
Oh, badass.
And then we had a character I didn't recognize, but it was a background character from a Brandon Sanderson book who liked to cook food.
Oh,
But it was fun. My backup was Michelle Carpenter, Michael Carpenter's gender swap paladin,
nice.
which probably would have been way more fitting to play, but I really wanted to play Dresden. So, for interconnected backstories, what have you guys ever, like, when you did your session 0 for the podcast, did you guys think about those types of things? And, like, or for any games that you run, do you think about, like, how you can intertwine your backstories together?
I think, like in the case of me and Jared, who plays Gunark on our show, we didn't really talk about interconnection or like any ties. Really, it just so happens like he's a Minotaur. My character's also a Minotaur, but doesn't look like a Minotaur, and like all this lore and heavy stuff about the Minotaur race in our world ties very heavily to both of us. Like Jared's character lives in a city where the Minotaur were originally and then forced out, and my characters learned about them being forced out as part of his heritage. So it's for us, it was unknowingly we've connected a bunch of stuff between our characters. And I think it, and even Mitch was like, it's so cool that you guys are like this unintentionally.
Yeah, for the podcast, I think it seemed like, at least, like the goal from the outset was that it's people who don't have any ties, and it doesn't really make sense that they formed into a ragtag group, but who wouldn't want to hang out with us? I don't really know.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But it's been interesting to make and find the connections with characters that didn't already have something built. As far as in other games, I I do encourage players to at least find another character in the group that they can create some sort of bond or background with. The druid that I'm playing in another game is came on to the game with two other characters, and so they're three non-biological elf sisters who were kept in a circus for years. So they've got
Mhm.
their nice together backstory, but then they can go off and do their own stuff independent of of each other now, but it's great to have that root to go back to kind of feel grounded in the world.
That's fair. I enjoy having at least one major connection with somebody. Ironically, it's always with my best friend, but like we were the married couple for the one game, we were siblings for another game where my character rescued her character from a mind flayer asylum
Hmm.
where they kept him alive and barely aware of his reality
Nice,
for
nice.
years. We've played best friends and like all that stuff. But it's interesting when you don't have a connection, but you find a way to get that connection.
Hmm.
And then
Oh,
if
yeah.
a DM is good, like not, I guess you don't have to do this to be good, but some good DMs will do this where they will find minor things that connect you
Hmm.
that you wouldn't realize.
Yeah.
Like your tutor for this rich snobby person was also somebody that this guy used to talk to get insert bad thing here or like whatever, like small minor connections here.
Yeah.
So when that comes up, it can not only cause confusion, but a little like, oh no, that's my tutor. It's like, what do you mean that's your tutor?
Yeah.
Like, that's my drug dealer. Like, what are you talking about?
Hmm. Yeah, I will say with our podcast game that there's definitely some stuff like with Gunark and Yuri where there's connections that they weren't quite aware that they had. There's probably some, with our Raven flavored friends. And then Mary has some yet to be uncovered, but Mitch and I know connections to one or more characters,
Mhm.
which is fun to like just giggle after sessions
Being
with
in the
Mitch about.
know.
Yeah.
I just had an idea that I want to play now, and this came from the connections of the sisters that you were mentioning earlier, or
Hmm.
the circus where you were mentioning earlier. I want to play a group of goblins or kobolds, whichever, and then one really big race, so Goliath or Loxodon or Furbolg or something, but they're all siblings.
I love
Hmm.
it. I love it.
I want to do it.
Yep. I'm for it.
They don't need any more games, but I want to do it.
Well, holler if you need people.
In the 2 days I have a week,
Hmm.
add 6th game.
Yep.
That would be so much fun, though. I just played an all kobold game,
Oh,
one shot. It was so much fun.
I bet. I love the kind of ragtag humanoidy races like the kobolds and the
Mhm.
goblins and really just anything kind of small and possibly screechy voiced. They're all great.
I just, yeah, we did a one shot that'll be going out in December for our 10 tabletop tales game on Tales of, was it Tales? Hold on. Before I say what it is, so I'm not saying the wrong thing. Yes. For Tales of Asperon, or Aspirin, there is going to be a game releasing on December. So on December 21st, Tales of Aspiron, we are playing as a group of kobolds. And I played Naupo, who is this cutesy barbarian. And just like my favorite part of the entire thing was she just was like, oh, there was one of the players wearing chainmail.
Hmm.
And she just goes click, clack, click, clack, click, clack, following him around because he was making noise.
I love it.
It was just so much fun. But
Yeah,
everybody had like very distinct personalities.
yeah, we've got a every weekend we're not all million, 5, 6, 8, however many of us are on the podcast can't all get onto the same schedule. We've got an alternate Curse of Strahd game that we play.
That's a blast.
Yeah, I'm a goblin wizard with a possum familiar,
Love it.
Yeah, and
and
I'm the totem barbarian Leonin
yeah,
with a
so
very bad John Wayne accent.
yeah, and so dude, the goblin wizard rides around on Duke's back. He apparently has like braids that you can hold on to like reins, and the possum hangs off his belt, Jack Sparrow style, and that's how we get around. It's fun.
So Ironically, you said goblin with a possum. My backup character for Behold Clearlight is a goblin with a possum familiar,
Oh, nice.
and I just shared a picture.
Oh,
General discussion.
okay. Yeah, I'll share. Let me get a picture of dude for you. It'll take me just a second, but
But I think I made her a rogue. I don't remember. It's been a while since I made her, but I made a backup just in case my bard dies. Because it's such a deadly game. I'm just like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Please don't kill me, but I'm gonna die. This way, in case anybody like listens and then eventually this character comes in, I didn't steal the idea.
yeah.
It already existed.
Well, you'll also see that our flavor is just a little different once I get it pulled up here. And that's
Yeah.
good. People's flavor should be just a little, want the right one. Dang it. That one doesn't have the scratches. Okay, well, this one, it's going to have an extra possum in it. The one in his shirt is not his familiar.
Gotcha.
It's somebody else.
Oh, that's cute. Yeah, we're very different.
Mine's
yeah, it's
a
always
handsome young man.
super handsome. Dude Patty Podrum.
Yeah, Podrum is the one in his shirt. So
That's the druid of the party's wild shape at the moment.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Okay. But yeah, so anything else you guys want to add about experiences with building groups or anything like that?
um
Or any advice to give to new people trying to
yeah,
build a group?
yeah, just it's okay to do trial games, see if things are going to fit. And it's okay to take somebody aside and be like, "Hey, this just isn't a good fit for this game. If something else crops up, I'll let you know." My home game, I made it out of people that I basically cherry picked out of the various store games that I ran. So I had plenty of ability to try them out and see who I think would be a good fit and want to have around enough to be in a home game. And then,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, go online, try out different games, try out different groups.
Yeah, and it's
It's just,
definitely. Go ahead and finish your
oh,
thought.
I was just gonna say it's a little bit of legwork or
Oh, yeah.
time searching the internet, but at the very least, you're gonna walk away with some like stupid stories you can tell somebody.
Yeah,
So just try.
yeah. I would say, definitely can agree with all that. Plus, it's even if you've been in a group for months or even a year or whatever, it's totally okay to step away if you're not having fun anymore. I think is the big
Yes.
thing to keep reminding someone.
Yeah, I've heard bad D&D is better than no D&D, but that's
And I'm like, no, I,
Not
I
true.
want
that's
good
not a
D&D. I want good
yeah.
fun
Don't
D&D.
don't settle for bad D&D.
And my biggest thing is just try and be open-minded.
Mhm.
But if things aren't improving after communication has happened, then step back or leave if you need to.
Yeah.
Um, I have told the story before about leaving a Sunday game because of a bad DM, and I am very thankful that I did because while yes, I got to play, I realized I wasn't having fun. Even though like there were moments of fun, it wasn't like I left feeling like annoyed more than anything. So you don't want that. You want D&D to be your happy place.
Mhm.
And if D&D isn't for you, try something else.
Yeah, there's
Try
so
Shadowrun.
any of the Powered by Apocalypse games. Oh my gosh, Monster of the Week, can't recommend highly enough. Overlight, everyone should try Overlight. Do it.
And honestly, if you can't find a group of people that are willing to try a harder system, try one-page RPGs.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Go check out Grant Hewitt's or try Joel Salda's. Like try their games that are one page or like 1 or 2 pages, and you can easily learn how to play those systems and play them without much hassle.
Mhm.
When I ran Honey Heist the other day, which came out last Thursday or came out on the 19th of November, I literally planned for about an hour
Mhm.
for that game because I just needed to get the generic concept down of what was happening.
Yep.
Everything else was ran and decided by the players and their dice rolls.
Yeah, I've
So,
done Honey Heist. It is super fun. Yeah, any of the one page things, anything that's like a 2d6 system, if you're hesitant about having to deal with a bunch of different kinds of rules and stuff, you can't go wrong with a two dice. Boom.
if you want a D6 system that's very role play heavy, try 0 Year Engine, I believe it's what it's called, like Tales from the Loop and Tales from the Flood.
Oh yeah.
Those are super RP heavy and it's super hard to die. It's possible, but it's difficult. And it's a very simple system, which I picked up relatively easily and played for a charity stream once. So, like, honestly, it's really easy to build a character. Took about an hour.
Mhm.
And if you have the right DM, it's very roleplay focused. So, not very many rules.
Yep.
But yeah, so thank you guys so much for joining. This has been a lovely conversation.
Well, thanks for having us.
Agreed.
Where can our listeners find you guys?
You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, a bunch of other platforms, and of course, the normal one we pump out is anchor.fm/practical-heroes.
That's the one they pump out. I just say practicalheroes.com and it will take you straight to all that stuff.
Yeah. And as always, you can follow us on Twitter.
Yep.
Awesome. So thanks guys again for joining, and thank you everybody for listening. You can find Beholder to No One on Twitter or Facebook at Beholder to No One, and you can find us wherever podcasts can be found. You can also find our latest episodes on beholdertoknoone.com, site created by my husband Keith. And I hope you guys enjoy the episodes that have started for 10 Tabletop Tales. We had Birdhouse Mist go out on the 2nd, the stream on the 3rd, and keep an eye out for some future games coming up the rest of December. So we will chat with you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.